Do you like dividends? I mean, who doesn't? But studying dividends for each individual stock and then purchasing them, that's a pain in the butt. So that's where ETFs come in. So you buy a dividend ETF and essentially you own a group of dividend stocks. But see, the problem with most dividend ETFs is that they have higher management fees. Take a look at some of the most popular dividend ETFs in Canada. CDZ 0.66% MER, also known as management expense ratio. Xdiv 0.39% MER. Xdiv 0.55% MER. Now those don't seem like a lot, but the point of buying an ETF is to own a group of companies as cheaply as possible and yet still grow your portfolio. See, the thing about the best dividend stocks in Canada is that they're very highly reliant on finance and energy. And if you look at the dividend aristocrats in Canada and filter to the highest yielding stocks, most of them are either in energy, finance, or insurance, which is basically finance. So essentially, most of these dividend ETFs you see in Canada, CDZ, Xdiv, Xdiv, are heavily reliant on finance and energy, so there's not much variety. So if there's not much variety, I tend to choose the ETF with the lowest MER, or management expense ratio. That's why I love the ETF Xdiv, which is the topic of today's video. First of all, it's got the lowest MER ratio of all the ETF that focuses on dividends in Canada at 0.11%. So it tracks the MSCI Canada High Dividend Yield 10% Security Capped Index. That's a lot of words. But in short, it's an index that tracks some of the most reliable high dividend yield companies in Canada, and no holding in that index can surpass more than 10% of that entire index. So on paper, it's amazing. You get all the benefits of a dividend ETF at a lower cost. So what's the downsides? First of all, like all dividend ETFs in Canada, it heavily focuses on finance and energy stocks, which is basically the downside of the entire Canadian stock market in general. But the biggest downside, if you can even call it that, is that this ETF only holds about 20 companies, whereas for most other dividend ETFs, they hold about 50 or 60 companies. But then again, the companies that Xdiv holds are quality companies. So for me, I don't see this as a negative. But for some people that wants more diversification, this could be a downside. But what I do like about Xdiv is that it gives you a monthly dividend payment. So you can use that monthly payment to reinvest into this ETF or other assets. If you can't tell, I really like this ETF. Xdiv is my biggest dividend ETF holding in my portfolio at 15% of my entire portfolio. See, I view this ETF as essentially the same as other dividend ETFs in Canada at a cheaper cost, and it has worked pretty well for me. So yeah, I would recommend this ETF, but I really feel like this ETF is really underrated and really not talked about in the community. So perhaps I can convince my viewers to consider this ETF. If this video helped you, please remember to subscribe and turn on notifications for future videos on financial tips and financial comedy.